Whispers in the Rain, a 40-minute collection of true horror stories. Introduction. Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me. Get comfortable. Wherever you are right now, just settle in. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension leave your body. Close your eyes if you feel safe doing so. And listen to the rain. Can you hear it? That steady rhythm. That constant presence. Rain has a way of creating its own world, doesn't it? A barrier of sound between you and everything else. Tonight that rain is going to be our companion, our anchor, as we venture into two stories that will challenge what you think is possible. What you're about to hear are real accounts. Real experiences shared with me by people who lived through something they still can't fully explain. I've changed names to protect their privacy. I've altered certain details. But the heart of each story, the core truth, that remains exactly as it was told to me. These aren't just scary stories meant to give you a quick thrill. They're deeper than that. They're about moments when reality cracks open, when the ordinary world reveals something underneath. Something that shouldn't be there but is. Something that changes you forever. Over the next 40 minutes we're going to explore two very different encounters with the unexplainable. The first will take us to a night shift at a rest stop where one man discovered that some travelers aren't traveling at all. They're waiting. And the second will show us what happens when a childhood memory refuses to stay buried. When something you thought you imagined turns out to be horrifyingly real. The rain continues around us. Let it wash away your expectations. Let it dissolve the boundaries between what you know and what you're about to discover. Let it carry you into these stories, into these moments, into these lives that brushed up against something impossible. Our first story takes place along a lonely highway in Montana, a place where the road stretches for miles without towns, without lights, without witnesses, where a rest stop sits like an island in an ocean of darkness, and where one night everything a man thought he understood about the world came undone. So breathe deep, listen to the rain, and let's begin. Story 1. The Passengers Who Never Leave. Have you ever noticed someone and then looked again only to find them in the exact same position as if they haven't moved even a single muscle in 20 minutes? My name is Marcus and I'm 41 years old now. This happened 6 years ago when I was working as a night attendant at a highway rest stop. Not glamorous work, minimum wage, overnight shifts. But I needed the job and honestly I liked the quiet, liked the solitude, liked being alone with my thoughts while the world slept. The rest stop was on Interstate 90 in eastern Montana, middle of nowhere. The kind of place that exists purely for function. Bathrooms, vending machines, picnic tables, a parking lot. Nothing else for 30 miles in either direction. During the day we'd get steady traffic. Truckers, families, road trippers. But at night it was different. My shift started at 11 p.m. and ran until 7 a.m. 8 hours of darkness. 8 hours of watching an empty parking lot. My job was simple. Keep the bathrooms clean. Restock the vending machines. Make sure nobody was sleeping in their cars overnight, which wasn't allowed. Call the state police if there were problems. That was it. Most nights nothing happened. I'd clean the bathrooms twice, maybe 3 times. Read books. Watch videos on my phone. Count the hours until sunrise. Boring. Safe. Predictable. But some nights were different. Some nights I'd get visitors who made me uncomfortable. Made the hair on my neck stand up. Made me question what I was seeing. It started about 3 months into the job. A Tuesday night in October. Cold. First real cold snap of the season. I was doing my rounds around 1 in the morning. Checking the bathrooms. Making sure everything was stocked and clean. When I came back to my little attendant booth I noticed a car in the parking lot. Old sedan. Tan-colored. Parked under one of the lot lights. I hadn't heard it pull in, but that wasn't unusual. I had headphones on sometimes. Listened to podcasts to pass the time. I looked at the car. Tried to see if anyone was inside. The windows were slightly fogged. I could make out a shape in the driver's seat. Someone sitting there. Just sitting. Not moving. I waited. Watched. People sometimes pulled in to make phone calls, to check directions, to rest for a few minutes before continuing. I gave them space. Didn't bother them unless they stayed too long. 20 minutes passed. The person in the car didn't move, didn't get out, didn't start the engine. Just sat there, perfectly still. I started to feel uneasy. Something was wrong. I grabbed my flashlight and walked over to the car, approached the driver's side window, knocked gently. The figure inside didn't respond, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge me at all. I knocked harder. Nothing. I shined my flashlight through the window, and my blood went cold. It was a woman, middle-aged, wearing a blue sweater, hands on the steering wheel, eyes open, staring straight ahead. But something about her was wrong. She wasn't moving at all, not breathing that I could see, not blinking, just frozen, like a mannequin. I knocked again, louder, called out, "Are you okay?" She didn't move, didn't react. I tried the door handle, locked. I ran back to my booth, called 911, told them I had an unresponsive person in a vehicle. They said they'd send someone. Nearest deputy was about 40 minutes away. I went back to the car. The woman was still there, still frozen, still staring. I watched her closely, looking for any sign of breathing, any movement, anything. I couldn't see her chest rising or falling, couldn't see any indication she was alive. But she looked alive. Skin had color. Eyes were moist and reflective. She didn't look dead. She looked paused, like someone had pressed pause on her existence. I waited by the car, watching her, talking to her even though she didn't respond, telling her help was coming, telling her to hang on, feeling more and more disturbed by how absolutely still she was. Then I noticed something else. There were other people in the car, in the back seat, 2 of them, a man and a child, both sitting perfectly upright, both staring straight ahead, both completely motionless. I hadn't seen them before. The back windows were more fogged, darker, but now I could make them out clearly. A man maybe 40, button-up shirt, hands folded in his lap, and a girl maybe 8 or 9, wearing a yellow dress, hair in pigtails, hands at her sides, both frozen, both unmoving, both staring forward with the same blank expression as the woman. I backed away from the car. This wasn't right. This wasn't a medical emergency. This was something else. Something impossible. I called 911 again, updated them, told them there were 3 people, all unresponsive, all completely still. The dispatcher sounded concerned, said the deputy was driving faster, would be there in 20 minutes. I went back to my booth, sat down, kept the car in sight, watched those 3 figures, waiting for any movement, any sign of life, any change. Nothing. They sat like statues, like photographs, like they'd been frozen in time. The deputy arrived 35 minutes later. I met him in the parking lot, pointed to the car, explained what I'd seen. He approached cautiously, shined his light inside. I saw his body language change, saw him tense up. He tried the doors, all locked. He radioed for backup, for an ambulance. Then he broke the driver's side window, reached in, unlocked the door, opened it. The woman didn't move. He touched her shoulder, shook her gently. Nothing. He checked for a pulse. His face went pale. He stepped back, radioed again. Voice tight, controlled. I need paramedics now. We have 3 unresponsive individuals. Possible carbon monoxide. Possible something else. I don't know. The paramedics arrived 15 minutes later. They checked all 3 people. Checked vital signs. Checked pupils. checked everything, and then they loaded them into the ambulance. Still frozen, still unmoving, still staring. The deputy took my statement, asked me detailed questions. When did I first notice the car? What time exactly? Had I seen them arrive? Had I heard anything unusual? I answered as best I could, told him everything. He said they'd investigate, figure out what happened, thanked me for calling. Then he and the ambulance left, and I was alone again. Just me and the empty parking lot and that abandoned tan sedan with its broken window. I couldn't stop thinking about them. Those 3 people. The way they'd been sitting. The way they hadn't moved. Not even when the deputy shook them. Not even when the paramedics moved them. Just rigid. Frozen. Gone somewhere I couldn't understand. I checked the news the next day. And the day after that. Nothing. No reports. No updates. No mention of 3 people found unresponsive at a rest stop. It was like it never happened. A week later I asked the deputy when he came through on his rounds. Asked if he'd heard anything about that case. He looked at me strangely. What case, he said. I reminded him. The 3 people in the car. The frozen family. He shook his head. I don't remember that. You sure that was me? I described the night. The date. The car. Everything. He frowned. Checked his log. Looked back at me. I don't have any record of that call. Nothing in my reports. But you were there, I said. You broke the window. You called for the ambulance. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, maybe you fell asleep. Had a dream. Overnight shifts can do that to you. But I didn't dream it. I know I didn't. It was real. They were real. After that I started paying closer attention, watching more carefully, and I realized it happened again. Not every night, not even every week, but sometimes. Sometimes a car would pull in, park under a light, and inside would be people, sitting perfectly still, frozen, waiting. I'd watch them, sometimes for hours. They never moved, never left, never showed any sign of life. Then at some point before dawn, usually around 5 or 6 in the morning, they'd be gone. The car would be gone, like they were never there. I tried taking pictures, video, evidence, but it never worked. My phone would glitch. The images would be corrupted. Black screens, static, nothing useful. I tried approaching the cars, knocking on windows, calling out. They never responded, never acknowledged me, just sat there in their frozen poses, staring at nothing. After 3 months of this, I couldn't take it anymore. I quit. Told my boss I found better work. Didn't mention the frozen passengers. Didn't mention the cars that appeared and disappeared. Didn't mention any of it. But I've thought about it every day since. Those people, those families, sitting in their cars at a rest stop in the middle of nowhere. Not moving, not living, not dead. Just existing in some state between. Some frozen moment they couldn't escape. Were they ghosts? Echoes of people who'd died there, repeating their last moments over and over. Were they travelers from somewhere else? Some other dimension or reality, pausing at our rest stop on their way to somewhere we can't imagine? Or were they real people, trapped somehow, frozen in time while the world moved on around them, aware but unable to move, unable to speak, unable to escape their vehicles and their endless waiting? I don't know, can't know. All I know is that rest stop isn't just a place for travelers to pause their journeys. It's a place where some travelers pause forever, where some people stop and never start again, where the boundary between motion and stillness, between life and something else, becomes thin enough to see through. I've driven past that rest stop a few times since I quit, always during the day, never at night, and each time I look at the parking lot, at the spaces under the lights, and I wonder, how many cars are there right now? How many frozen passengers are sitting in their vehicles, waiting, staring, trapped in their endless moment? And I wonder if anyone else sees them, if other night attendants have noticed, if travelers pulling in for a bathroom break glance at those cars and sense something wrong, something off, something that makes them hurry back to their own vehicles and drive away faster than they planned. Or if I'm the only one, the only person who could see them, who was sensitive or unlucky or cursed enough to perceive what others missed. The passengers who never leave, the frozen families, the travelers trapped between one moment and the next. I'll never know, and I'm not going back to find out. I'm done with night shifts, done with rest stops, done with watching parking lots in the darkness, done with waiting for cars to appear with their impossible passengers. But sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I think about them. I imagine them sitting there right now, in their cars under those lights, hands still, eyes open, waiting for something, for release, for movement, for the frozen moment to finally end and let them continue their journey. And I wonder if they know they're stuck, if they're aware of time passing around them while they remain locked in place, if they're screaming inside their motionless bodies, begging for someone to help them, to free them, to understand what happened and how to undo it. I couldn't help them, couldn't free them, couldn't even prove they existed. All I could do was witness, watch, bear testimony to their impossible presence. And now you know too. Now you're a witness. Now you carry this story, this knowledge, this possibility that somewhere on a lonely highway, at a rest stop in the darkness, travelers are stopping and never leaving, freezing in moments they can't escape, waiting in cars that become their prisons. If you ever find yourself at a rest stop late at night, if you see a car under a light with people inside who aren't moving, who are too still, too frozen, too wrong, don't approach, don't investigate, don't try to help. Just get back in your car, lock your doors, and drive away. Drive far and fast and don't look back. Because some passengers aren't meant to be disturbed. Some moments aren't meant to be interrupted. Some frozen instances are better left alone. And pray, pray that whatever froze them, whatever trapped them between heartbeats, whatever locked them in that eternal pause, pray it doesn't notice you, doesn't reach out, doesn't decide that you should join them, should stop, should freeze, should become another passenger who never leaves. The road is long, the night is dark, and some rest stops offer no rest at all. Only endless waiting, only frozen time, only the eternal pause of travelers who stopped their journey and could never start again. Drive safe, stay moving, and never stop for too long in places where the darkness feels too thick, where the silence feels too heavy, where the stillness feels contagious. Because once you stop, once you pause, once you freeze, you might discover, too late, far too late, that starting again, that moving forward, that escaping the moment, is no longer possible. And you'll sit there, hands on the wheel, eyes forward, body rigid, mind screaming, while the world moves on without you, while other travelers come and go, while night attendants peer through your window and wonder what happened, wonder if you're real, wonder if they should help, but they can't help. No one can, because you're not in their time anymore, not in their reality. You've slipped into the space between moments, the frozen pause, the eternal rest stop, where motion ends and waiting never does. Interlude. Let's pause here for just a moment. Take a breath. Listen to the rain. It's still falling, still constant, still reliable. That first story, those frozen passengers. I know it's unsettling. I know it raises questions you can't answer. That's the nature of these encounters. They don't resolve neatly. They don't explain themselves. They just happen, and we're left to wonder. But we're not done yet. We have one more story, one more journey into the impossible. This next account is different, more personal, more intimate. It's about memory, about childhood, about the things we see when we're young that adults tell us aren't real. But what if they were real? What if the monsters we saw, the presences we felt, the terrors that visited our bedrooms, what if they weren't imagination, weren't dreams, weren't the product of young minds creating fears from shadows? What if they were actual, real, waiting? Our second story explores that possibility, and I warn you, it goes to dark places, to memories that should stay buried, to truths that are more terrifying than any fiction. So take this moment, this pause, this breath between stories. Settle yourself. Listen to the rain. And when you're ready, when you feel prepared, we'll continue into the second story, into the memory that wouldn't stay forgotten, into the childhood terror that followed someone into adulthood and demanded to be recognized, to be acknowledged, to be remembered as real. The rain continues, and so do we. Story 2, the thing that visited at night. What's the earliest memory you have, and are you absolutely certain it really happened? My name is Angela and I'm 36 years old. For most of my life I carried a memory from early childhood. A memory I'd been told wasn't real. That I'd imagined. That was just a nightmare or a young mind making monsters from shadows and moonlight. I believed that explanation. Accepted it. Buried the memory deep where it couldn't bother me. Until last year when I found proof. Proof that what I remembered, what visited my room when I was 4 years old, what stood at the foot of my bed night after night, was real, had been real, was always real. And now I don't sleep well. Now I lock my doors obsessively. Now I check my bedroom before turning off the lights. Because if it was real then, it might come back, might return, might decide it's not finished with me. Let me tell you about the memory first. The one I carried for 32 years before learning the truth. I was 4 years old. We lived in a house in suburban Ohio. Small ranch-style home. 3 bedrooms. Nice neighborhood. Normal family. Mom. Dad. Older brother. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would suggest what I'm about to describe. My bedroom was at the end of the hall. Small room. Twin bed against one wall. Window looking out at the backyard. Closet with sliding doors. Standard child's room. Pink walls. Stuffed animals. Nothing frightening during the day. But at night something would visit. I'd wake up. Always around 3 in the morning according to the digital clock on my dresser. I'd wake suddenly. Completely alert. And I'd know immediately it was there. Before I even looked. I could feel it. The presence. The weight of something watching. It would be standing at the foot of my bed. Tall. So tall its head nearly touched the ceiling. Impossibly thin. Arms too long. Hanging down past where its knees should be. Dark. Not black exactly. More like the absence of light. Like a hole cut out of reality in the shape of something that resembled a person but wasn't. No face. Or if it had a face I couldn't see it. Just smooth darkness where features should be. But I knew it was looking at me. Watching. Studying. With attention so intense I could feel it like pressure on my skin. It never moved. Never came closer. Never reached for me. Just stood there. At the foot of my bed. Watching. For what felt like hours. Though it was probably only minutes. Time felt strange when it was there. Stretched. Heavy. I'd lie frozen. Covers pulled up to my chin. Too terrified to move. Too terrified to scream. Too terrified to do anything but stare back at this thing that shouldn't exist. This dark figure that violated everything I understood about my safe bedroom. My safe house. My safe world. Eventually I'd close my eyes. Squeeze them shut. Count in my head. When I opened them again it would be gone. Morning light would be creeping through my window. The room would be normal. Empty. Safe again. This happened multiple times. At least a dozen. Maybe more. Always the same. 3 in the morning. Wake suddenly. The figure at the foot of my bed, watching, then gone by morning. I told my parents, cried, begged them to believe me, to help me, to make it stop. They were kind, patient. They checked my closet, under my bed, told me there was nothing there, that I was having nightmares, that my imagination was very strong, that monsters aren't real. They put a nightlight in my room, left my door cracked open. My dad even slept on my floor one night. Said he'd protect me, said he'd prove nothing was there. That night it didn't come. The figure, the watcher. My room stayed empty. My dad woke up in the morning triumphant. See, honey, nothing to worry about. Your room is safe. But the next night after he left, it came back. Same time, same place, same terrifying presence, watching me with its invisible eyes, studying me with its incomprehensible attention. Eventually the visits stopped. I don't remember exactly when. Sometime after I turned 5, maybe 6. They just gradually became less frequent, then stopped altogether. And I grew up, moved on, buried the memory under years of normal life, normal experiences, normal rational understanding of the world. I convinced myself my parents had been right. I'd had vivid nightmares, an overactive imagination, common for young children. Nothing more. I went to college, got a job, got married, had a normal adult life. The memory of the dark figure faded, became something I barely thought about. A childhood fear. Silly, harmless, long past. Then last year my father died. Heart attack. Sudden. We were cleaning out my parents' house. My mom had decided to sell, move into something smaller. My brother and I were going through boxes in the attic, sorting what to keep, what to donate, what to throw away. I found a box labeled Angela Childhood, opened it expecting school papers, art projects, the usual sentimental items parents save. And there were those things. But there was also something else. A journal. My mother's handwriting. I opened it. Started reading. It was a diary she'd kept during the years when I was very young. Daily entries. Mostly mundane. What I ate. What I said. Cute things I did. Normal parenting observations. Then I reached the entries from when I was 4. October through January. And my blood went cold. The entries described my complaints about the figure in my room. My terror. My insistence it was real. But that's not what made me freeze. What made me freeze were the other entries. The ones describing things my mother had noticed. October 15th. Angela says the dark man visited again last night. She's hysterical. Won't go back to her room. I'm worried about her. But I also noticed something strange. Her window was open this morning. I know I closed and locked it before bed. How did it open? October 22nd. Angela had another episode. Screaming about the tall dark thing. I'm taking her to a child psychologist next week. This is getting worse. But I found her toys rearranged this morning. Lined up in a perfect row facing her bed. She says she didn't touch them. Says the dark man moved them. I don't know what to think. November 3rd. I stayed up last night. Sat outside Angela's room. Listening. Around 3 in the morning I heard her whimper. I opened her door and... I don't know how to write this. I don't know what I saw. There was a shadow. In the corner. Darker than the rest of the room. Shaped like... something. I turned on the light and it was gone. Angela was awake. Crying. Pointing at the corner where I'd seen. Where I thought I'd seen. Something. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening in my daughter's room. November 7th. I told my husband what I saw. He thinks I'm being paranoid. That I'm feeding into Angela's nightmares. Making them worse. He's probably right. I need to stop being afraid. Need to be strong for her. Need to show her there's nothing to fear. But I keep finding things. Marks on her walls. Long scratches too high for her to reach. Her books pulled off the shelf. Her closet doors open when I know they were closed. And always around 3 in the morning. Something feels wrong in that room. November 15th. I took Angela to Dr. Morrison, child psychologist. He says she's experiencing night terrors, common in young children. He gave us strategies, routine, comfort objects, reassurance. Says it will pass. I didn't tell him what I've seen, what I've felt in her room. He'd think I was crazy. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe we're both having some kind of shared delusion. Folie à deux. I read about it once, but I don't think so. I think something is visiting my daughter. Something I can't explain. Can't protect her from. Can't make stop. The entries continued. Weeks of my mother documenting the visits. The disturbances. The evidence she found each morning. Evidence she couldn't explain. Evidence she was too afraid to share with anyone. Then in January the entries changed. January 9th. It's been 3 nights since Angela mentioned the dark man. Maybe it's finally over. Maybe whatever it was has moved on. Left us alone. I'm afraid to hope, but I'm so tired. So afraid. I just want my daughter to be safe. January 21st. 2 weeks now. Nothing. Angela sleeps through the night. No more screaming. No more terror. No more presence. I think it's over. I think we survived whatever that was. I'm not going to tell anyone about this. Not my husband. Not Angela when she's older. It's better forgotten. Better buried. Some things are better left unexamined. That was the last entry about the dark figure. The rest of the journal returned to normal parenting observations. My developmental milestones. Preschool activities. Nothing unusual. I sat in that attic holding my mother's journal. Shaking. Because she'd seen it too. She'd believed me. She'd known it was real. But she'd lied to me. Told me it was my imagination. Told me monsters weren't real. While knowing. While documenting. While experiencing the same terror I'd felt. She'd protected me the only way she knew how. By denying. By normalizing. By burying the truth so deep we could both forget. So we could move on. So we could live normal lives without the weight of knowing something impossible had visited our home. But now I knew. Now I couldn't unknow. The dark figure had been real. My mother had seen it. Had documented it. Had been just as terrified as I was. I took the journal home. Didn't tell my brother what I'd found. Didn't tell my mother I'd read it. Just took it. Needed to process. Needed to understand. That night I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed in my own home. My safe adult house. And I thought about that figure. That presence. That thing that had stood at the foot of my bed when I was 4 years old. Watching me. Studying me. For reasons I couldn't comprehend. What was it? Where did it come from? Why did it visit me? Why did it stop? And most terrifying, could it come back? I started researching, looking for similar accounts. Other children who'd been visited by dark figures. Other parents who'd seen what they couldn't explain. I found hundreds, thousands, stories from all over the world. Children waking at night to find tall dark figures in their rooms. Watching, never threatening, never touching, just observing. Parents who'd witnessed the same things. Seen the evidence. Felt the presence. Some called them shadow people. Others called them watchers. Others had different names. But the descriptions were remarkably consistent. Tall. Thin. Impossibly dark. Appearing in children's rooms. Usually around 3 in the morning. Standing at the foot of beds. Watching. And most accounts said the same thing. The visits stopped after a few months. Usually before the child turned 6. Then nothing. No return visits. No explanation. Just gone. But some accounts were different. Some people reported the figures returning later, in adulthood, during times of stress or transition, appearing again, watching again, as if checking in, as if the observation wasn't finished. That's what terrified me most. The possibility of return. The idea that whatever had visited me as a child might decide to visit again. Might be out there somewhere, remembering me, tracking me, waiting for the right moment. I became obsessed with prevention. Installed security cameras in my bedroom. Bought blackout curtains. Started sleeping with lights on. Checked my room obsessively before bed. My husband thought I was having some kind of breakdown. I couldn't explain. Couldn't tell him about the journal. About the dark figure. About the terror that had returned after 32 years of dormancy. We separated 3 months ago. He said I'd changed. Become paranoid. Unstable. He wasn't wrong. I had changed. Learning the truth about my childhood had broken something in me. Shattered the comfortable narrative I'd built. The rational explanation I'd accepted. Always conscious that I might not be alone. That the family smiling for my camera might have dozens of witnesses. Hundreds. All watching. All waiting. All existing in that space between moments. And sometimes I see them. Not with my camera. With my eyes. Just for a second. Movement in the trees. Pale faces. Watching. Then gone. Like they slipped back into whatever space they normally occupy. The space we can't see. Are they dangerous? I don't think so. They just watch. That's all. Watch and witness and exist alongside us. Invisible. Silent. Constant. But knowing they're there. Knowing I'm always being watched by something I can't see. Can't understand. Can't prove exists except for occasional photographic evidence. That changes you. Makes the world feel different. Less solid. Less certain. Less alone. I asked Jennifer if she wishes she'd never seen them. Never captured that photograph. Never learned about the watchers. She thought for a long moment. No, she said. I think it's better to know. Better to understand that reality is more complex than we think. That we share our world with things we can't perceive. That observation works both ways. We watch the world, and the world watches back. Or something in it does. I've thought about Jennifer's photograph often. About the faces in the trees. The watchers among the leaves. The presences that exist in the spaces between what we can see. Are they real? I believe they are. Not in the way we typically understand real, but real in some other way. Some other mode of existence. Maybe they're echoes. Impressions left by people who once stood in those places. Ghosts of moments past. Still occupying the space they inhabited. Still watching. Still present. Maybe there's something else entirely. Beings from adjacent realities. Dimensions that overlap ours. Existing in the same space but at different frequencies. Occasionally bleeding through. Occasionally visible for just a fraction of a second. Just long enough to be captured. Maybe they've always been there. Part of the natural world. Part of the forest and field and park. Guardians. Observers. Witnesses to everything that happens in their domain. Watching over the land. Watching over us. I don't have answers. Neither does Jennifer. Neither do any of the photographers who've captured similar images. All we have are the photographs. Evidence of something. Proof of presences. Testimony that we're not as alone as we think. So the next time you're in a park, in a forest, in any natural setting, stop for a moment. Look around. Pay attention to the space between the trees. The shadows that seem too dark. The movement that might be wind or might be something else. You won't see them. Probably won't. The human eye isn't designed to capture what exists between moments. But they might be there. Watching. Witnessing. Existing alongside you in a space you can't perceive. And if you take a photograph, a simple snapshot, a family portrait, a nature shot, look carefully at the background, at the out of focus areas. at the spaces you weren't paying attention to. You might see them, pale faces, expressionless, watching, staring at your camera, staring at you, proof that something else is there, something that exists in the margins, something that watches always. And once you've seen them, once you know they're there, you'll never look at a forest the same way, never walk through a park without wondering, never stand in nature without feeling observed, because the watchers are always there, always present, always witnessing, and sometimes, just sometimes, they let themselves be seen, let themselves be captured, let themselves be known. Why? We can't say. Maybe they want us to know we're not alone. Maybe they want us to understand that reality is deeper than we think. Maybe they're trying to tell us something, warn us about something, prepare us for something. Or maybe they're just watching, just witnessing, just existing in their space while we exist in ours. Two realities overlapping, two worlds sharing the same location, mostly invisible to each other, but occasionally, rarely, bleeding through. Pay attention to the photographs you take, the images you capture, the moments you freeze. Look at them carefully. Study the backgrounds, the margins, the spaces you thought were empty. You might find you're not alone in the frame. Might discover faces you didn't see when you pressed the shutter. Might realize that every moment you capture, someone else is capturing too, watching, witnessing, recording in their own way. The watchers are always there, and now you know. Now you'll see them too. Conclusion. And so we come to the end. 3 stories. 3 glimpses into experiences that challenge everything we think we know about reality. 3 accounts of people who encountered something beyond explanation, beyond understanding, beyond the boundaries of what we accept as possible. Thank you for spending this time with me, for listening, for opening yourself to these stories, for allowing the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the world is stranger than we admit. The rain continues outside, steady, reliable, familiar. Let it bring you back. Remind you that you're here, safe, that what you've heard are experiences that happened to other people, not to you, not tonight. But maybe they've happened to you in smaller ways. Maybe you felt watched in an empty house. Maybe you've received a call from an unknown number that felt too familiar. Maybe you've seen something in a photograph that shouldn't be there. Small moments, easy to dismiss, easy to explain away. But now you know. You're not alone in those experiences. Others have felt what you've felt, seen what you've seen, wondered what you've wondered. And some of them have gone deeper, stayed longer, looked closer, and found that the impossible is more possible than we like to believe. What do we do with this knowledge? How do we live knowing that reality might be more complex than we thought? That watchers might surround us, that the dead might call, that our own minds might betray us? I think we do what we've always done. We continue. We move forward. We accept uncertainty. We embrace mystery. We acknowledge that some questions don't have answers. Some experiences don't have explanations. Some truths exist beyond proof. And maybe that's okay. Maybe not everything needs to be explained. Maybe some things are better left mysterious. Maybe the world is richer, deeper, more meaningful when it contains elements we can't fully understand. The people in these stories, Sarah, Robert, Jennifer, they've all continued, all found ways to live with their experiences, all integrated the impossible into their daily lives. They work, they love, they function, but they know. They carry knowledge that changes how they see everything. And now you carry it too. These stories, these possibilities, these glimpses into the strange. You can dismiss them if you want. Call them fiction. Call them exaggeration. Call them anything that lets you sleep peacefully. Or you can accept them. Hold them. Let them change how you see the world. Let them open you to possibility. Let them remind you that reality is vast and strange and wonderful and terrifying. The choice is yours, as it always is. Thank you again for being here, for listening, for staying with me through these accounts. I hope you found something valuable in them, something true, something that resonates. Sleep well tonight. Let the rain lull you. Let the darkness embrace you. And remember, you're safe. You're here.